Hi everyone, here I am back with the next part of Esio Trot. Remember yesterday we just heard the really strange message that Mr. Hoppy had written for Mrs. Silver. So let's find out what it meant. "What does it mean?" she asked. "Is it another language?" "It's tortoise language," Mr. Hoppy said. Tortoises are very backwards creatures, therefore they can only understand words that are written backwards. That's obvious, isn't it? "I suppose so," said Mrs. Silver, bewildered. "Esio Trot is simply tortoise spelled backwards," said Mr. Hoppy. "Look at it." "So it is," said Mrs. Silver. "The other words are spelled backwards too," Mr. Hoppy said. "If you turn them round into human language, they simply say, 'Tortoise, tortoise, get bigger, bigger. Come on, tortoise, grow up, puff up, shoot up, spring up, blow up, swell up. Gorge, guzzle, stuff, gulp. Put on fat, tortoise, put on fat. Get on, gobble food.'" There we go. You can see it there. Mrs. Silver examined the magic words on the paper more closely. "I guess you're right," she said. "How clever! But there's an awful lot of poos in it. Are they something special?" "Poo is a very strong word in any language," said Mr. Hoppy, "especially with tortoises. Now, what you have to do, Mrs. Silver, is hold Alfie up to your face and whisper these words to him 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. Let me hear you practice them." Very slowly and stumbling a little over the strange words, Mrs. Silver read the whole message out loud in tortoise language. "Not bad," Mr. Hoppy said, "but try to get a little more expression into it when you say it to Alfie. If you do it properly, I'll bet you anything you like that in a few months' time he'll be twice as big as he is now." "I'll try it," Mrs. Silver said. "I'll try anything. Of course I will, but I can't believe it will work." "You wait and see," said Mr. Hoppy, smiling at her. Back in his flat, Mr. Hoppy was simply quivering all over with excitement. He kept repeating to himself, "Your slave for life. What bliss!" There was a lot of work to be done before that happened, though. There is Mr. Hoppy. He's very excited. The only furniture in Mr. Hoppy's small living room was a table and 2 chairs. These he moved into his bedroom. Then he went out and bought a sheet of thick canvas and spread it over the entire living room floor to protect its carpet. Next, he got out the telephone book and wrote down the address of every pet shop in the city. There were 14 of them altogether. What is Mr. Hoppy playing at? Here he is. It took him 2 days to visit each pet shop and choose his tortoises. He wanted a great many, at least 100, perhaps more, and he had to choose them very carefully. To you and me, there is not much difference between one tortoise and another. They differ only in their size and the colour of their shells. Alfie had a darkish shell, so Mr. Hoppy chose only the darker shelled tortoises for his great collection. Size, of course, was everything. Mr. Hoppy chose all sorts of different sizes, some weighing only slightly more than Alfie's 13 ounces, others a great deal more, but he didn't want any that weighed less. "Feed them cabbage leaves," the pet shop owners told him. "That's all they'll need, and a bowl of water." I think Mr. Hoppy's got a plan up his sleeve. When he had finished, Mr. Hoppy, in his enthusiasm, had bought no less than 140 tortoises, and he carried them home in baskets, 10 or 15 at a time. He had to make a lot of trips, and he was quite exhausted at the end of it all, but it was worth it. Boy, was it worth it! What an amazing sight his living room was when they were all in there together. The floor was swarming with tortoises of all different sizes, some walking slowly about and exploring, some munching cabbage leaves, others drinking water from a big shallow dish. They made just the faintest rustling sound as they moved over the canvas sheet, but that was all. Mr. Hoppy had to pick his way carefully on his toes between this moving sea of brown shells whenever he walked across the room. But another enough of that. He must get on with the job. Look at all those tortoises. Can you see them? Tomorrow we are going to find out what Mr. Hoppy has up his sleeve. I think he's got a dastardly plan. We shall find out. Bye.